In the previous lesson, we learned how to find a reference angle, and now we're going to use that to be able to evaluate a trig function for a variety of angles in all four quadrants. So let's just talk about the process for how we're going to evaluate a trig function. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to calculate that reference angle. Then we will evaluate the function at the angle. We'll be using this table for that. And finally, we're going to determine the sign of the function using the table at the right. So this is a table you're going to want to come back to from time to time. Rather than read all of it, I want to just sort of talk about how it works. So first of all, I've got quadrant 1, 2, 3, and 4 set up here. And all 6 trig functions are listed in each quadrant. Okay, you can see sine, cosecant, cosine, secant, tangent, and cotangent, and that is listed in each of the quadrants. And what this tells us is should it be positive or negative. So as an example, let's say I'm looking at cosine in the second quadrant. It should be negative. Perhaps I'm looking at tangent in the fourth quadrant. That should be negative. So we're going to use this table as I go through certain examples. And again, it's a good thing to hold on in reference to until you get used to it. Now this is another table that you're going to want to do the same thing with. Again, let me just talk about what we have here. So I've got all 6 of my trig functions here. And then for 30, 45, and 60, I have the exact value. Okay, so these are exact values. Please note, you can obviously type these things into a calculator. That's going to give you a decimal. So remember that decimals are not exact values. They're actually rounded. So with this table, you'll be able to answer with exact values. Now remember, when we calculate a reference angle, those are all supposed to be acute angles between 0 and 90. So these will correspond back to the reference angles that we're going to compute. Okay, so before I go ahead, you might want to pause the video. You might want to study over these 2 charts, but I'll leave that up to you because we will be using these moving ahead. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to work out the value for the cosine of 135. Now I don't have the XY grid here anymore, and some of you may be able to do this mentally, but I'll just consider this a rough sketch. So 135 degrees, we're going to come here 90, and then we're going to go another 45. So this is going to make 135 degrees like this. So we learned that the reference angle is from here to here. So from 135 to 180, I can just think 180 subtract 135. So that's 45. And so I've got my reference angle as 45 degrees. So what I want to do is I want to come in here. I was asked the cosine of 135. The reference angle is 45, and the cosine of 45 is square root of 2 over 2. So let's go ahead and write that. Cosine of 45 is square root of 2 over 2. Now, I'm in the second quadrant, so my cosine, it might be negative or it might be positive. So let's go back and check with this table here. Cosine in quadrant 2 is supposed to be negative. So because this is supposed to be negative, what I need to do is just change my sign. So the cosine of 135, I'm just gonna apply a negative to this value right here. And it's going to be negative square root of 2 over 2. And we now have an exact value for this. If you punch cosine of 135 in the calculator, you're going to get something like minus 0.707. and the decimal keeps on repeating. So this is the right answer if you want an exact answer, and oftentimes you'll need to do that. So let's do one more. I'm going to work out the tangent of 7 pi over 6. First thing I'd like to do is get a feel for 7 pi over 6 in terms of degrees. So if I do that conversion, the pi's cancel out. So what I like to do is say 180 divided by 6 is 30. So I've essentially got 7 times 30, and that's going to put me at exactly 210 degrees. So now with that, let's just do a little sketch, just a rough sketch, so we know where we are. We start here, and then I'm going to come around 90, 180, and then to get to 210 I need to go another 30. So this is theta is 7 pi over 6. Okay. Now to get that reference angle, what I want is this distance from here to here. Okay. And I can also just do it numerically. 210 subtract 180. Either way, this is a distance of 30 degrees, and you're going to get 30 degrees. And so 30 is my reference angle, and I can go to my table up at the top, the tangent of 30. Let's go look at that. So square root of 3 over 3 is the tangent of 30. And last but not least, I want to check the sign. So I'm in the third quadrant, and I want to see should my tangent be positive or negative if I'm in the third quadrant. So let's come here to the third quadrant, and let's look at the tangent. And the table tells me it's supposed to be positive. So I'm going to give my final answer. The tangent of 7 pi over 6 is the square root of 3 over 3, and that's an exact answer again. So we have just calculated exact values for trigonometric functions at angles all around the circle.